Please settle in now. Our service is about to begin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Jersey Shore, a welcoming and inclusive faith community. Thank you for joining us. We who bring a teaching of hope, we who bring a saving message, who welcome all in our doors, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, more service, more love, all of us gathered here together. My name is David Wiesner, and I am your worship associate this morning. I've been attending UUC SJS for a little over a year now. Our worship service today is led by Theresa McReynolds. Reverend Dr. Theresa McReynolds considers herself a spiritual seeker. She spent most of her life studying and learning from many different religions and spiritual traditions. She has lived and learned from medicine women and men, and shamans as well as pagan high priestesses. Theresa loves the journey. If you're new to our congregation, welcome. We would love to connect with you and help you get to know our congregation better. If you're joining us live on Zoom, please visit the chat area of your screen and click the visitor link to connect with our congregation. Video of the service and a printed copy of the sermon will be available on our website and Facebook page later today. If you care to tweet during today's service, you can use the hashtag UUCSJS. If you're hard of hearing, closed caption of the whole service is available on YouTube recording that will be posted this afternoon. If you're joining from a computer or a smartphone, you're encouraged to type any joys or concerns in the chat box on your screen. In most platforms, it can be accessed by a chat icon either at the top or bottom of the page, and the chat section will open where you can leave a comment and see what others have said. Please remember that this video will be on the internet, so do not share information best kept private. Welcome, you who come in need of healing. You are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome with your problems and your pain. Welcome to your joys and wonderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. People with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day. Our chalice lighting this morning includes a passage from A Communion of Heart and Soul by Bruce Southworth. For the gifts of this day and for the community of spiritual nurture and compassion, we give thanks. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. May our many sparks meet and merge. Please join in singing along to our gathering hymn, Rise Up, O Flame.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light flame, by thy light beauty, vision and joy, vision and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision and joy.
During this next musical interlude, we invite you to write your joys and sorrows in the chat portion of your Zoom screen. The icon will either be at the top or bottom of your screen and will allow you to enter text into the panel where others can see it. At the end of the musical interlude, I will read what you would share with the congregation gathered here today. Please remember the recording of today's service will be available on the internet, so as a reminder, please do not share things that ought not be posted on the internet for eternity. Each week, we gather in this space With things that weigh upon our hearts and minds, some of us bring joy we wish to share with others, and some bring us sorrow that weigh heavy upon our hearts. I will now read what joys and sorrows you would share with this community. Judy is grateful for President Biden's presence in our world, and Melissa has joy for warm and spring weather. I'm all about that. Uh, Kathleen asks us that we continue to feel sorrow over a friendship damaged by a conversation about politics months ago. And Judy again is grateful for his generosity and compassion. Let us be in the spirit of prayer. We pray for those who are apart from us, whether by distance, time, or conflict unresolved. We pray for those who thirst, whether for water, dignity, or justice, and we pray for our small, blue, fragile planet. Amen.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
We will now take a moment to give and receive the morning offering. Since we can't pass around a basket over Zoom, we have the next best thing, ways to donate online. In the chat area of your Zoom screen, you will find ways to give over the web, give by text, and our postal address if you'd like to give by check. If you're not joining us live on Zoom, you can visit our website, uucsjs.org, and click on the yellow donate button or text a donation amount to 609-293-4495. No matter how you support us, we appreciate you and your generous heart. After all, your donation is what keeps us going. Each Unitarian Universalist congregation is self-supporting, and 80% of our funds come from you. And no matter how these gifts are offered, they are always most gratefully received.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Let us drink from the stories that sustain us all. We gather as a house of stories as we learn of those who have gone before. The way in front of us has become more clear as we weave together the tales of who we are. The loneliness lessens and the web of our oneness is revealed as we listen deeply in those times of tender trust. We descend into longings and leanings, hopes and fears of the humanity we share. Beneath the wells from which we drink, there is a deeper well that feeds them all. Come, let us tell each other tales of our thirst. Let us drink for the stories that sustain us.
It's my pleasure this morning to introduce. Oh, there she is, Theresa.
Yes, sorry. I thought I unmuted and I didn't. Good morning. My intention is to live my life as an awakened, alive, vibrant human being. My intention today is to share with you some of the stories and the authors and the TV shows and all of the prophets that I see all around the world that are helping me to sustain this intention. I realized that as a young woman, I was always a reader. And I think I started in my 20s with Richard Bach and his book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Illusions. They really helped form my perspective. And then I went on to Aldous Huxley, and the book, The Island, spoke to me so much. It was a book that really formulated how I see the body and healing. And little did I know back then that it was really creating my whole healing practice as an adult. I would think that during the time of Jesus and Buddha, we'd have all these prophets or the stories of all these prophets walking around. And one day I realized that, oh, the prophets today, a prophet is an inspired teacher. So the prophets today are all around us in the arts. So I started really looking at, and for me, a prophet is somebody that gives me an aha, like a little piece of information that I go, oh, and it uplifts me and it gives me a new understanding and a new awakening to something. I recently was watching a television show on Netflix called The Irregulars. I don't know if anyone saw it. But it's a story about these young people that live in London, and they are working with Sherlock Holmes. And what happened is there's a rift in the curtain between the dark and the light. And their whole job is to repair this rift. They have to go repair this rift. Because with the rift, and the opening in the curtain, all these yucky things are coming through from the dark to infect the light and, the good people of the town. And it's just horrible. And they're really yucky. So these young people with Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are doing this whole thing to save and get this curtain repaired. And this one young woman is a intuitive, and she's able to go inside into trance and be able to see the darkness, and she can work and help these other people from inside. And so at one point she comes out of the darkness, and she and her sister is saying, don't go there again, it's really, really hard on you and your body and everything. And she said, yes, but you don't understand. The only way it can hurt me is if I'm in fear. And the fear comes from my mind. So if I can keep my mind clear, then I'm not in fear, and there's no way this darkness can hurt me. And I thought, wow, is that really powerful? That's such another aha. Yes. And how often in this time today, with the polarity, with COVID, with with the political system, with everything, dualities, how much of that time do we spend in fear? And it's the fear, and it's our minds, the fear that's in our minds that really control what's going on for us. With that, one of my great teachers is a man named Michael Singer, and he wrote a book called The Untethered Soul. He also wrote The Surrender Experiment, and a course that I'm taking with him right now called How to Live Your Life, and How to Live a Life of Surrender. And he talks about this, our minds, and how important it is to untether our minds, and that how he calls it our roommate in our head, and it lives in there, and it constantly talks negative to us, and it brings us fear, and it brings us down. And how can we separate? He talks about becoming the observer of this mind, to be able to step behind it and not allow it to create our lives, not allow ourselves to create from this place of not true. And I think about when I was a young parent and my children would be out, and they'd be out past curfew. And I'd be in a panic of, oh my God, they were in an accident. What happened to them? Why aren't they here? And it was before cell phones. So I couldn't reach them or call them or anything. And one time a friend said to me, you're running movies in your head. And I realized that that it was my mind. Like, I didn't know if it was true. There's another teacher called Byron Katie. And she says there's 4 things you ask yourself when your mind's running crazy. One is this true? Well, I don't know if it's true. Are my kids in an accident? Is it absolutely true? I don't know. How does having this thought make me feel? Well, it keeps me scared, it keeps me in panic, it keeps me just so anxious. And where would I be without this thought? I'd probably be sitting home reading a book, really enjoy myself thinking. And if I have a choice on what thought to think, if it's all made up in my mind, why not think of a positive thing instead of a negative thing? Why not think, well, they just are out and they're having a really good time, and they forgot the time, and they'll be home soon, and yeah, there'll be consequences for not obeying their curfew, but it's because they're having a good time. And so that's a lot of what Michael Singer's books are about. How to untether our mind from this negative place that kind of controls us. He tells this great story that I just really love. And because it's about being in the present and being in the awe of life. Anyone that's read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, all these teachers that talk about being in the present. So he tells a story about a dragon. And this dragon is walking on the earth back in the time of the dragons, and it steps down its foot into the earth, and it makes an indentation. And pretty soon the rain comes and fills up this indentation, and then it becomes a lake. And so the dinosaurs are gone now, and people are here, and this person comes and finds the lake and pitches a tent and loves this little place. And pretty soon more people come and they pitch tents. And then after a while, it creates a town. And in this town are these 2 people, your ancestors, your way, 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 way far, thousands of years ago ancestors. And these 2 people meet, they get married, they have their children, and they go on and their children move and they have children and their children, and it goes on and on and on throughout your history. All of that history led to this moment, this special moment right now. If any one of those people had taken a different turn, if any one of them had not gone left instead of right, we wouldn't be here. And when I read that story that he told, I just thought of the awness of life. How amazing is this to be here right now, me talking to you, you listening to me. And it's because of all these people that came before us that happened to me. And I think about my grandmother who came from Italy on a boat to meet my grandfather. She was supposed to marry here, but she didn't. The family brought her over to marry this man, but she met another one on the boat and she married him instead. And like, what would have happened? I wouldn't even be here if it had been as planned. So I think about that all the time. Like when I sit to eat, I think, my God, is this amazing? Look what had to happen to get me here, to get me to this place. Michael Singer also talks about these wounds that we carry inside of us. In the Buddhist tradition, they call them samsaras. And he equates them to rocks in a stream. It's kind of like our childhood and what came before us, the stories that came before us, how they affect how we are today. The Kabbalah talks about how we're here to become responsive instead of reactive. And Michael Singer talks about how we react from these wounds that are inside of us, how the stories that go in our head come from these wounds. They probably are not even true, or maybe they were, but we buried them inside of us. So now we react instead of respond. He also said, I love this. He told a story about how death comes to this person and says, okay, now it's time to go. And the person says, what? No, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Give me another week. He said, no, I've given you 52 weeks this year. Come on, it's time to go. But wait a minute, I need a little more time. I have to do some things. He goes, what? No, we have to go right now. It's time to go. And I think, wow, how the honest of life, we never know when that moment's going to come and say, okay, now you have to go. So our job is to be this awakened, alive, vibrant person, to be able to look at all these wounds inside of us and to start to work through them. Look at how our mind creates and controls things. Look at what makes us react instead of respond. I remember one time years ago, my partner and I shared this house, and we each had our own bathrooms. And I came upstairs one day and he took all the stuff that was on my little table beside my sink and had it all over the sink and the toilet and the tub. And he took the table and he went in and put it beside his bed and he had tea on it. And this triggered such a reaction inside of me. I went ballistic. I was screaming at him, and you don't touch my things without asking me. And blah, 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 blah. I was going on and on. And I realized in that moment, wow, I learned that if I'm reacting this intensely, it's never about the present. I have to go and look at the past. And my childhood, being brought up with an alcoholic parent, and there were never any boundaries and nothing. My stuff, I was the oldest of 5, everything was touched. I never had anything that was just mine. And he triggered that wound inside of me that caused this reaction that couldn't even allow me to look at the fact that he had hurt his back really bad. He needed a table beside his bed that he could put his tea on. He couldn't put anything away because he was in pain. And I was able to then go back and apologize to him for my reaction and then know that I had to set some boundaries. So that's Michael Singer. He's really amazing if you get a chance to really read some of his books. And Byron Katie also, she's just amazing too. Oh, so then let's move on to Gary Zukav. Gary Zukav wrote a book called The Seat of the Soul. And his whole stuff is about being our authentic self, really being real, being in the truth of who we are. I say this to my practice members every time they come in. Be in the truth of where you are. If you're in pain, be in pain. If you're sad, be sad. If you're happy, be happy. Be in the truth of where you are. Don't try to avoid it. Don't crawl into it. Don't try to make it go away. Just be in it, because by being in it, you're going to really be in your truth, and that's going to make it go away a lot faster than if you repress it. Buddha says all pain and suffering comes from resistance. So the more we resist, the more we have this pain and suffering inside of us. So when we can surrender to whatever's going on, I call it the is, be in the is. I say to them, what is the is today? Be in the is. That's so important, to be in the is of your life, whatever it is you're feeling. He tells a story about how he was divorced and he met this young woman, and he wanted to date her. He really liked her, and they had a date. He realized that the day that he made the date was actually the anniversary of his divorce. And he was not wanting to be back with his ex-wife, but he was feeling some sadness around the fact that they had divorced and that, the marriage didn't work. And he was going to cancel the date. And then he thought, no, I'm going to go. And he realized in that moment he had a choice. He could go and pretend that everything was all right, or he could tell her the truth. I'm feeling a little sad today because it's the anniversary of my divorce. And that would take, he was taking the risk that she would say, okay, well, you're probably not over your ex, so I'm out of here. Forget this. But he decided that he wanted to do this relationship in his truth. He wanted to be in the truth of who he was. He wanted to be in his is. So he shared with her, and she got it, and they had a great conversation. And to this day, they're still together. This other big thing is intention. And I really love this, the power of intention. He says, if you're not aware of your intention, you create from fear. Whatever you throw out into the world comes back. Your intention is throwing out into the world. Intention brings energy into form. I just love this because if you heard me say, my intention for my life is to live an awakened, alive, vibrant human being. That means that's what I'm throwing out ahead of me. That's what's creating the path in front of me. And what's going to happen then is everything unlike that's going to show up. All of my wounds will show up so that I can clear them and clean them and get rid of them so that I can be more awake and more vibrant. I had a friend years ago that used to say Earth was a school for the gods. And I've often thought, oh, yes, we go into classrooms. And every time we come to the end of a classroom, we get a little test to see if we need to stay in that classroom or move forward. And he calls this our Earth School, which is the same thing. I really like it. He says, you are a powerful, creative, compassionate, loving spirit. And if any of those do not feel like they fit, then that is your work on this Earth School. If you're not feeling that you're living and as a powerful, creative, compassionate human being, or you don't believe that you are inside of you, then that's your work. That is the distance you have to travel in this Earth School. I saw the movie The Wallflower. I don't know if you saw it. It's a teenage movie. And it's about, this, and in it, this young guy is in love with this teenage girl, but she's in love with the bad boy. And so he's standing beside his teacher and he's looking out in the hallway and she's flirting with this guy and his heart is just pitter pattering because he really loves her. And he says to his teacher, how come some really nice people choose relationships that are really bad for them or people that are really bad for them? And the teacher says to him, we always get what we believe we deserve. And I thought, wow, is that really powerful line? We get what we believe we deserve. So one of the things I say to my grandchildren all the time is if you're not getting what you really want, say you want in life, you have to raise your deservability. How do you get to the place where you believe you deserve more than what you're getting? And that vibration, everything is vibration. So the vibration of the thing we want has to match who we are. That's why they say people who win the lottery lose all the money after the first year because they don't believe they deserve it on some level, or their vibration doesn't match the vibration of what they say they want to receive. So it's like all these prophets and teachers and inspired teachers really help me to look at how I can raise my deservability, how I can look at being a more inspired person. I'm going to change the tone a little bit right now. The next person I'm going to talk to you about is Brian Stevenson, and he wrote a book called Just Mercy. What a powerful book that is. That was my dinger to say I've been talking for 20 minutes. Am I okay to continue? So he talks about, he's a young lawyer, Black lawyer that lives in South Carolina. And he works with people that are on death row. And his book taught me so much about compassion that I can't even tell you if you get a chance to read it. He talked about how he tells so many stories about these young men who were on death row, or he talks about this one kid named Ian who was being initiated into a gang at 13 years old, and he was given a gun and he was supposed to hold up the store, and he held up the store and the gun went off and he shot this woman in the face. And he went to court and his lawyer said, plead guilty and you'll get about 15 years. So he pled guilty and he got life in prison without parole. And he was 13. When he got there, they didn't have a uniform to fit him because he was so tiny. And the warden was so scared to put him in the regular population that they put him in solitary confinement. So he lived 18 years of his life in solitary confinement, never touching anybody, never having conversations, never reading poetry, never anything, any part of life, never being taught anything about being a man, being in life. He talks about how we see Black and brown people, that they have a presumption of guilt. He says, we are not the worst mistake we've ever made. You're not just a liar or a thief or a murderer. You're so much more. He says that slave owners had to see slaves as less than human to justify what they were doing to them. And that this whole consciousness permeates how we see Black and brown people. And it permeates the whole justice system. He says that we made alcohol a disease and we made drugs a crime. And that drugs take young men, marijuana takes more young men from their families where they don't get to teach their sons and their daughters how to be people. They don't get to be partners. They spend so much of their lives in jail. And that the death row is full of stories of people like this. He said there's also some pretty bad crimes that people commit, but he talks about, I was thinking of pit bulls. Like we have a story about pit bulls, about how bad they are and scary they are. And unless you have a pit bull and really know that that's not true, most of us have a story. And if we see a pit bull, we're going to be scared of a pit bull. And he says that's how we see Black and brown people, most of us. We've been told these stories about them. And so when we see them, we have this presumption of guilt. So when they're pulled over by a police officer, there's this presumption of guilt. He talks about mercy. Mercy is something we give to people, even if if we believe they don't deserve it. That's what mercy is. I think about as a kid in Catholic school, we used to say, Lord, have mercy on my soul. Lord, have mercy on my soul was one of the prayers. He says it's a wealth, not culpability, that shapes outcomes. And a guilty white man with money has a better chance than an innocent man of color. So that was just such a profound book for me. If you get a chance to read it, it's called Just Mercy. I want to go on, but I feel like maybe my time is up. And I see Jessica saying yes. So I'm just going to end with some, Carolyn Mace is another teacher I wanted to talk about. And Michael Bethwick, I just love him. He's a Christian New Thought minister. And his prayer is, hello, eternal loving presence. And I think of Theresa Avila, who says, hover over me, and fill me up with your presence. So every day, I love this journey. I love every single part of it, the wonderful and the not so wonderful. I'm so grateful for my life, for the opportunity to constantly be opening, to look at every area where I have a belief or a judgment or an arrogance, to constantly allow myself to break open. I want to live my life as a more awakened, alive, vibrant human being every day. And my teacher, Donald Epstein, says, bring it on, bring it on. Show me all the ways that I don't do this so that I can change those things. So look for your prophets. They're everywhere. They're in our movies, they're in our books, they're all around us. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Theresa. Such a wise and thought-provoking message this morning. I really enjoyed it. Our closing words today are by L.R. Nost. Life is amazing, and then it's awful, and then it's amazing again, and in between the amazing and the awful, it's ordinary and mundane and routine. Breathe in the amazing, hold on through the awful, and relax and exhale during the ordinary. That's just living heartbreaking, soul healing, amazing, awful, ordinary life. And it's breathtakingly beautiful. Let us read words together for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Hey, you guys, Leah here. So I must be among millions, if not billions of people who tuned in to the inauguration yesterday on January 20th, 2021. And I was inspired by every moment of it, but especially rapt and lifted, exalted, just completely fixated and moved by Amanda Gorman's poem, her presence, her beauty, her artistry. And so this song was born. There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always your light in the dark. We are ready to see it. There is always your light in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always your light. There is always in the dark. We are ready to see it. There is always your light. There is always in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always light. There is always dark. There is always light. There is always dark. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a climb this hill. Together we will. There is always shine your light. There is always in the dark. There is always shine your light. There is always in the dark. Be the light.
We have some announcements this morning. Margaret's Circle will meet on Thursday, May 6th at 1 o'clock. We will meet at the Pavilion by the water at Port Republic rather than on Zoom, rain or shine. Cone Vivir Wellness Hub is holding its opening celebration, so mark your calendars for May 20th, 2021. More information is available in your midweek message. Reverend Dawn is currently on medical leave and will be out for the next 6 weeks. If you're in need of pastoral care during this time, please reach out to Tracy Cotino, our caring team leader. Caring team is looking for members who help members in the following ways: send cards, make phone calls, visit with members who need support after an illness, death in the family, or other loss. Caring team members must keep members' confidential information private. Some members could help support others by running errands or providing meals in times of need. Whether you have a little bit of spare time or a lot, we welcome any amount of help. Families are invited to remain on the Zoom call following coffee hour at 11:30 to watch this week's episode of RE on TV together. Please take this opportunity to keep virtually connected. Our events this week include Heartfulness meditation on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, a Buddhist Sangha on Tuesday, Margaret Circle on Thursday, Parents and Caregivers as Sexuality Education Educators on Friday. If you need to schedule a meeting or event, please reach out to the admin at admin@uucsjs.org for the Zoom room or to be added to the calendar. We warmly welcome all of you who are visiting us today. Please Please click on the visitor link in the chat area to connect with our congregation. We invite all of you here today to stay and socialize in our online social time so we can get to know each other better. Now let us share in a moment of silent reflection to consider today's message and the meaning it has in our lives.